Hey guys, I like to just stare at this. This is the homepage to my website. Um, Worked on it for, maybe 3 years, roughly. And eventually I kind of gave up. And now I'm going to redesign it with a different framework. And, you know, I like to put this up when I'm alone in my house and I watch the code come streaming down and I pull up the nav, which is the rainbow background. And, you know, this is iteration upon iteration of it upon iteration. I mean, it started with a simple folder on my computer called 2021, which I started in late 2020. I mean, not 2020, but it was 2021, so maybe it was 2020. Yeah, it's crazy. But then I also, at some point, just tried to come up with a symbol for my website or for like a make believe video game company. I just, thought about making my own brand and what I would do. And I wanted it to be simple and replicable and iterable. So I did the triangle with the oval, which is a delta halo, change for the good. And I would design that with Canva, a free graphic design website I recommend. But then I would use AI to generate like new variations of it using a word like cloud or whatever, and it turned that into a little cloud. And then, I made it transparent, put it on the website. Where it says Cloudlandria is another iterative thing. Started as just Cloudland, and then I came up with the idea of like Alexandria. And one day I was just coding and I wanted to make sure it was live, make sure I was changing something and it was working. And the name just kind of stuck with me, but there's multiple reasons for it. We have all these different apps and stuff. I could scroll down, I could explore the site, but maybe I will later. But for now, I just want the world to see what I see, which is a beautiful website, and I've made no money from this. And, some people think that I might regret coding, but I don't. For me, it's not really optional. It's not. I can't live in a world where I don't know how to do that. And it's kind of like when they say your interest chooses you instead of you choosing your interests. And I want to talk about the maxjan.com. This guy here, I would call him Elam, but it's basically an iteration on an AI generated version of a text that was the result of a lot of philosophy. And I got this microphone now. It's a pro microphone, and so you should be able to hear me okay. Not gonna lie, I feel kind of like a failure sometimes. Like the world doesn't recognize my value. Um, but not just that. It's sometimes I don't recognize my value either. But I can tell you that I like this this right now. What you're looking at. I like to pull this up. Even when I'm not using the computer, I pull this up and I have it here. Like I have a TV above me, and if I'm watching a movie up there that's tied to the computer, and I need to be displaying something here on the computer, I'll display this while I'm watching the movie on the other screen. So this is like kind of my default. And it'd be cool to actually make it into a screensaver, but this this started out as a AI. So the text that I used to generate a guy that was similar to this, but not as detailed, because AI has gotten a lot better since 2021 when I started this project. I said I wanted to say a white blood cell of God saving the world, because that was my idea of like the best version of myself that I wanted to aspire to be. Was thinking of myself as inside the body of Christ or God, however you want to look at it, and as doing the role of a white blood cell, meaning you know trying to heal the body by attacking the infection of the evil people in the world, or just evil in high places. Anyway, I said that, and it said, oh, and this was probably Dolly like 1 or 2 or something. I said that, and it said, no, you can't. That violates our safety. We can't have the word blood in there. Because I said white blood cell. So I said, fine, a white cell of God saving the world. And I wanted to see what would it draw. Like that to me was actually the most interesting part of AI. We take it for granted now, but when you first could just say words and it would draw you something, pretty amazing. So it drew, this. I'll see if I can pull it up. See if I have it saved. Yeah, this guy. Okay. So this is what it drew when I said a white cell of God saving the world. And I loved that it drew a guy. It kind of looks like maybe he has a sword here. There's like some nature to him. He's a faceless man, but he's kind of like a spirit, and he's kind of like on this wreath. So there's this nice blend of like the spiritual and nature and masculinity, but benevolency and compassion and harmony. And I thought it was so beautiful that is what the AI decided to associate with, or to generate with the association of, or the instruction of a white cell of God saving the world. Because saving the world means like you're a hero. And so it drew a man with kind of like the sword hilt right here for a belt. And but it's a biological cell, so it doesn't necessarily have a face. and it's that connectivity. So anyway, I thought this was my image that I was happy with. And then later on, Dolly 3 or 4 came out, wherever we are now, and I was playing with it, and I gave it this image. And I said, can you know, generate another version of this image? Or I forget exactly what I said. And I said this image was generated based off the prompt, a white blood cell of God saving the world. Can you do that again in more detail? And it drew this. And this is how it looks without the code. But interesting. It says I've had this open since 7 o'clock, so it's supposed to say, is it 10 o'clock? It knows what device I'm on. And anyway, but then, so the code, I looked up a tutorial of how to make matrix code come down to try to spice up my page, and it was green and all the numbers and all the letters. And I decided to make it gold and only have the letters and numbers that I wanted to be a part of the site. And obviously, my brain can't decipher these strands, but anytime I look at any of them, if I look closely, it's only the letters for Cloudland, Elam, and 117, and whatever I was, looking into at the time, or identifying with, or trying to aspire to be. And yeah, I mean, eventually I got this dark cloud look going. This is kind of like my Skyrim character, combined with this collage of this is based on another AI generated image of a man who was in a tree. Anyway, I really like this dark cloud background, juxtaposed with this kind of parchment. The content of the text has changed a lot to try to be more professional, but I still like the design. And then this is just an image I took from the internet of fractal that I think is pretty beautiful. And this is another picture of Elon as a dragon slayer. And then this is like the rainbow angel concept. And then this is that's a white blood cell image. Another Elam image. And then this is from my story called Runaway AI. And this is called Cyber Elam, which is kind of based on a game idea I had, but it's also just kind of me, It's just who I want to be, I'll say. I want to be a man who can help the future, impact the future benevolently, using technology and nature in harmony. And I recently moved. There's a lot of good things happening to me. Today I'm just tired. I'm gonna turn on the fan even if it makes a little noise. Hold on. Sometimes I have interesting ideas. I've been told my voice can be soothing. I usually don't use this microphone for videos like this. But I have everything I need, you know. And I can't really say what's on my mind. I can tell you how I feel. I feel like I've I feel like I may never be happy. Like I may never find the right person, or that I may never be able to provide for them. I question the landscape of making money, the dogma of Christianity, the validity of the information that I receive. I question my own strength or fortitude or decision making. Like I'm a solid, like I question my solitude. I question my weakness in terms of who do I allow into my solitude to provide me the necessary human interaction to not die from loneliness. But then you're supposed to have standards with people. And how do you how do you surround yourself with like high value people who are ambitious like you without like it's difficult to rise to the level that you want to be by yourself. I mean, I think Terrence Howard on the Joe Rogan podcast had a really fun thing. I mean, a really smart thing that he said, and I took it a different way. I took it as a metaphor, but what he was talking about space travel, and he was talking about, well, but he was talking about how everything relates to everything, and how the universe like breathes in and out, and anyway, he's talking about decoupling as a form of travel. So he's talking about how the world is in motion. The whole cosmos is expressed in motion. So if you could somehow separate yourself from that motion, you would travel very quickly with very little effort, assuming you could toggle on and off your coupling to the present motion. So instead of thinking it as I'm going to propel myself by force over there, he was talking about it more as I'm going to kind of disengage from this motion, and then I'll end up over there. And so he talked about a bubble, not needing to express energy to rise to the top of the ocean, because its nature, its composition is in opposition to its environment. Therefore, the environment, for its own sake, pushes up the bubble. And I thought about myself because I was in a job interview recently where I was basically offered the job and it was less money than I wanted. And I felt overdressed, overqualified, too well spoken, too good, too confident. He admitted that the other employees he had already hired, that he had asked, he said, it's kind of like the sell me this pen test. And I blew it out of the water, and he said other people couldn't even start, whereas I had already sold the pen essentially. And I do have a certain amount of confidence in my abilities. I think pretty girls is kind of my Achilles heel. Because I'm just um, heartbroken, you know. Um, I love so deeply forever, and it seems like women can love you one moment and then stop loving you the next, and that breaks my heart with all of them. And my love also feels permanent, like there's nothing they could do to prevent it, and yet it feels like when other people love me, um, if I do something wrong, they, and this is particularly my experience with pretty girls, they seem to, withdraw that love. Like, I guess it's conditional as opposed to unconditional. And that really sucks. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is I can walk into a situation with men and be extremely ready for a challenge. Um, in fact, I'm infinitely more prepared than anything in my life requires me to be prepared for. And it's this imbalance. And so my point, my hope is that if I truly conduct myself as a high value individual, I may be um, so much like a bubble that doesn't, the pressure of the part of the ocean that I'm in doesn't match with me. So maybe the people, at that company that I was offering me $13 an hour, when I've made, more than that in California, maybe it would like, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to say, like, if I truly was this white light of a guy, maybe I would be promoted, I guess, without even trying to be promoted, just by being, you know. Maybe the you would think that the world, just like the ocean pushes up the bubble, you would think that the world would promote you if you were this shining light. But what's so interesting is that when I thought I saw an angel, he was working at 7-Eleven. And to me, the message I got from God was, in this world, it's possible to be perfect. Not that I am, I'm far from it, but he showed me, I'm still trying to understand it, but I got the impression that what God was showing me was that you can be a perfect angel and still have to work at 7-Eleven, because the guy was the best looking person I had ever seen, like male, I'll just say best looking guy. and he was working at 7-Eleven, and he looked like he could be a movie star if he wanted to walk, but um maybe he doesn't want to be a movie star, or maybe the movie star business is what you hear about on those YouTube clips where people say you have to sell your soul to the devil. And maybe he didn't want to do that. I don't know. That's just one interpretation. I don't like having to think about if other people think I'm crazy, or having to withhold personal experiences or personal opinions. But the truth is, I'm uh, I'm unable right now to stand firm in my beliefs, um, financially independent, because weird things are happening to me. Um, I will say, when Google calls me and recruits me and interviews me, and when Meta interviews me, I do feel underprepared for those, and I feel um, like I don't belong. Maybe it's too high of a frequency for me to, because the truth is I'm not in optimal form. Like this gentleman here, in this image is my optimal form. There's no um, laziness in this guy. There's no sin in this guy. This guy's got it going on, and and I wasn't ready for those opportunities, but I know I belong there. Like, I don't belong in a retail store making $13 an hour doing something that anyone can do. I'm and I don't belong at Google making 200 grand a year with the smartest people in the world. I'm somewhere in between there. And the insanity that I experience having to fail at one and fail at the other, or it's just insane. It just doesn't make sense. The guy, he shook my hand and said, "You got the job, And then just nothing happened. And then, he said, in 2 hours, it'll be updated on your online portal and you can come into work, blah, 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 like on Sunday. And 2 days go by, no update to the portal. So then I, I call the store and I'm like, are you going to update the thing? And he does it. And then the portal just asks me like my date of birth. I update that, and then that's it. He never gave me a time to come in, and I was just kind of weirded out by the whole thing. Plus, it's only $13 an hour, so what's the point, And then I tried. Before that, I applied online to a store to sell phones, and I got a text message that said, "You've been approved for an interview. Please select your time from the chart below, and you can come in and interview." And there was no times, no available times. So it's telling me you can interview, but there's nothing there. And then when I go into the store physically and talk to the manager and explain that I gotta show him the text that says I've gotten an in-person interview. Um, he's confused because it's never happened before. Um, and so he's like, okay, go home. And he gave me his number, and we were going to try to like figure it out. And then a couple days later, he's like, yeah, you're not the only person having this problem. Still working on it. Never heard back from him. And frankly, he didn't seem like he wanted me to work there. And he didn't seem like he wanted to work there. So it's like I'll pursue something, but I'm not going to like over pursue mediocrity, is how I feel. I could be wrong because I definitely need to work. That's why I was willing to do anything. But it's just weird things have happened electronically. It's like, and one time, I will say this. One time, I borrowed my friend's phone because I thought my phone had been taken. And it was an emergency. I had just lost a fight and was bleeding, and I was concussed pretty much, and I thought I needed a phone for some reason I felt under attack, and I wanted to send pictures of the injury to the world. I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly at all. But I took my friend's phone, my roommate. And while I had his phone, I started sending out the picture of my black eye, my bloody eye, to contacts in his phone that we had the same job. That's how we met. So he worked for a different job then, but I knew some of the contacts on his phone. So I sent those people a picture of me, and then I linked this website to the contacts in his phone that I knew, that I used to work with, or I still worked with at this time. So I text the person, and I have a bloody picture of me and my website, which, pulls up a hyperlink or whatever and a preview. And he texts me back thinking that I am my roommate. And he says, "Why did you out Max's website? I'm so confused." Because I was sending it to more than just this person, but he was the one who replied. Now, in the meantime, my friend who had let me borrow his phone, because I said I need the phone, it's an emergency. I'm in my room at that point. He's banging on my door wanting his phone back. And I understand if someone borrows your phone, you're going to want your phone back. But the way he was doing it seemed different. It seemed abnormal because he had no... It seemed off. And then we start to get in like a conflict about it. And I'm lying to him. I was lying that whole night in self-defense, basically, since I got jumped, essentially. And I say to him, like, okay, I'm almost done. I'll be out in 1 minute. Like I try to keep it casual, but he's banging on the door, getting more and more like frustrated. And it's like, he could just literally like go play video games for 30 minutes and then come politely ask for it back. Like there wasn't really a logical reason to be like freaking out. if your friend who you've been living with is bleeding and says they need it to call their parents for an emergency or whatever I said. But you know, I got the feeling that I was doing something that was giving me information, because I needed information. Like, why am I getting almost killed? Because they were kicking me while I was down and had given up. At that point, they kept kicking me, and it felt like they were trying to kill me, essentially. And so I'm just texting everyone, and I'm trying the whole time this is happening. For obviously a lot happened for weeks to lead up to this moment, and what I was trying to think is, are people seeing this? Like what, like, when if I apply for a junior front end developer job or something, and do they even pull up the website? And if they do, like, it just, or if I'm sometimes I'll hit it off with someone and we'll be great friends in person, and people will be like, "Oh my god, it was so nice to meet you. I'm definitely going to check out your website." Because sometimes I hit it off with people about certain topics, and you know, rarely do I hear back. And it anyway. So the mutual friend that I texted is saying, "Why did you out Max's website?" It's a particular way of speaking. What do you mean out? Like, was it in? Was it in the box? Like, does it coming from his phone? Is it more, like, less scrambled than if I send it? Or like, and that's why I hand out physical cards, right? I used to, with it written down. So anyway, he says, "Why did you out Max's website?" And that's not the weirdest part. The weirdest part is I kept the phone for like 30 minutes fighting my roommate, you know? And he texted me again saying they have his wallet and keys. He's back in the void now, referring to me. So I'm reading my former colleague's phone that I texted my colleague's phone. I texted him a picture of me bloody and a link to my website, and he said, "I'm so confused. Why did you out Max's website?" And maybe he's just saying, that's like, but wouldn't you say, "Why are you showing me a bloody picture of your roommate or my coworker?" He didn't say that. Or like, "What are you doing advertising his website?" Or, "Did he tell you to send this?" Or he said, "Why did you out it?" As if it's a secret. And then he said, "He's back in the void." So what the fuck does that mean? Am I some sort of, is my website sort of a secret that, like, because you could imagine a scenario where maybe someone is in an artificial environment. Like, I was watching this FBI agent interview podcast thing, and he said that for FBI training, or maybe it was CIA training. Sometimes they'll have an entire village of like actors just to put a CIA agent in the middle of it to do a specific scenario. Like your mission is to infiltrate this thing and do this thing, and there's a controlled environment around them, testing them, and maybe in that environment, every text you send could be erased, or every text someone sends you could be altered. You could warp someone's personal reality with technology, or even other things like kind of like the Truman Show. But I'm just trying to make sense of the fact that, okay, so he says, so it's, I mean, and then my friend, it's possible he could walk over to his video game console and start messaging, or use the girl that he lived with, use her phone to say to people, hey, he has my phone, don't listen to text from me right now, or whatever, during those 30 minutes. But I'll never forget. And then I had to go back to work. And when I went back to work, I was going to confront the colleague of mine who said, why did you out Max's website? He's back in the void. And I'm not 100% sure of this memory, but I think he said something like, they have his keys, or they have his wallet, or they have his phone. I forget. I think it was keys. I mean, I for sure lost my keys that night. I had to be let in with a bloody eye by a stranger who just happened to let me in. And I remember praying to God, being like, I need an angel to let me in, because I was in trouble out there. I was trying to not get in trouble out there. And when I was bleeding on the ground, all I could think of was, I have failed. I'm going to wake up in a jail cell or in a psych ward and lose everything I've been working on. So I got up and had this second wind. Basically, I passed out from getting kicked in the head. And then when I woke up, I remember thinking, there's no officer. There was no officer there saying, like, okay, get up. We're taking you to the hospital or something. There was no cops there yet when I woke up a second time, but it felt like I had been asleep for hours. So I was fully revitalized after having lost the fight. And they start panicking. The guys that were beating me up before, they start panicking, kind of saying he's awake, he's waking up, like he's getting up, like, and I could see the fear in their eyes and sense it in their voice. And then he starts kicking me hard again in the head over and over, and then I block it. And I remember during the whole fight, I wasn't 100% engaged because I was on my knees on the ground, and I remember feeling like the only way to get up when multiple guys are on you and you're on the ground, like even pinned all the way down, the only way to get up is to dig your knees into the pavement, which is going to cause severe pain and damage. But that's the only way. You would have to use your knees on your way of getting up, with getting the 200 pounds off you, or whatever it was. And at that point, I decided, okay, I only have minutes before the police arrive, because I've been unconscious for God knows how long. There was this big fight outside a bar. I'm guaranteeing the police are going to come, and I know from experience what they're going to do to me. And it's not going to be good. So unless I'm, like, it's not going to be good if I'm not in control of the situation. So what I did is I said, fuck it, I'll sacrifice my knees. And they were bloody for months after this, like the biggest scabs ever. But I dug my knees into the ground to get up, and was blocking kicks. And then I get up and like throw the guy off me. And there's multiple guys. Um, it was at least two, maybe three. Um, so I'm surrounded, but it's an even fight because I get them off and back up. So my first move is sacrifice my knees to get up, block the kick, get up, and then now I'm turning to face. I back up so that I can face the men on both sides of me. And now I see that there's, maybe there's three. I really don't remember if it was two or three, but it was for sure more than one person. Um, so I had all the danger in my peripheral vision and vision. So then I realized these guys are better fighters than me. Even just one of them, I felt I had already lost the fight. They had already demonstrated a desire to kick me while I'm down. Um, and they seemed like trained fighters because when I threw my punch, they they moved to the side and immediately had my arm in like a lock. Like it was not a normal fight that I have been in before. So my hands are up defensively, and instead of attacking them, my priority is survive and don't get thrown in jail or a psych ward, and just go home. Like the experiment was off because I went out there that night to conduct an experiment on testing the simulation theory, or the theory in my head of like why is my life this way, like what is actually going on, um, when I give people these cards and they come to this website. What exactly is happening? Why am I not having more of an impact? So I ran a little experiment, and during my experiment I was interrupted immediately, and I attacked first. I attacked my interrupter because I theorized that I whoever was going to interrupt me first was going to be someone who didn't want the experiment to happen. And the experiment, the closest way I can come to describing it is in the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, where you have to do something absurd to change universes. I was doing that. So I was doing something that I would never do, specifically to get a response from the universe, to put me in a situation that couldn't have possibly been predicted by the current structure of like the reality. Like I was experimenting with, well, what if even if I'm completely ready for what's to come, like what would you have to ask yourself, what would happen if you were a mental patient but you weren't crazy at all? So you're in the place where the crazy people are, but you're perfectly well put together. How long would they be able to keep you there? And the answer is not very long. You actually have to lean in. You have to lean into the craziness. You have to keep going to be kept there. And it's like the bubble. They'll kind of spit you out if you don't belong there, because they're looking for confirmation the deeper you go into the prison system or the psych system or any sort of punishment. You kind of have to keep digging. And if you're someone who wants to get out and is perfectly appropriate behavior wise, but then I'll have things happen. Like one time I was in the psych ward doing perfectly, like just spotless, immaculate, I don't belong here bubble rising out of the psych ward. And no matter how bad the report is on the outside, the inside behavior is in such stark contrast that they have to let you out. So I would have hearings with like special judges that would determine he doesn't belong in the psych ward against his will. He should be able to go back to work. I see no evidence of any insanity in this person. And I would constantly like get out even ahead of like time. And during one of those emergency hearings, one of the guys was reading off a list of how I had behaved in that psych ward, and everything he read was negative. And then he told the judge, I got to be honest with you, none of that corresponds with my interaction with Max. And I think there was a mistake. And I was sitting there in observation of this man, trying to see if he was going to give away information. Like, because I know how to get out of a psych ward. You go to the group activities that are optional every single time. If you want to get out faster, you participate in optional things. That is the number one way to get out. So I went to every single one every single time and behaved, did all the activities, drew all the pictures, I did everything, right? But the report said that I missed all of them. So it's a blatant lie. It's not true. So I'm just sitting there looking at the man in front of me, talking to the judge, because I'm not allowed to talk yet, wondering, what is this guy gonna do? Is he gonna admit that it's a lie? Or make me have to claim that it's a lie, right? Anyway, he ended up being a good person and saying that didn't make sense. And it turns out, oh, it's an honest mistake. It was, the psych ward. There was a guy named, Matt, or some name with an M. It was this black guy who didn't go to group and was aggressive and had a similar name to mine, because my name's Max and his name was Matt, or it was Marshall, I think. And so Marshall and my files were switched. And so who did that? And was it an accident? Anyway, I ended up getting out because I had a chance to talk, and the guy right next to me was confirming what I was saying. And I said, I actually went to every single group, and this says the report he just read from an unknown nurse, right? Because I'm friends with every single nurse. Like, I'm literally like an agent in there. Like, systematically, there is no room for error. Like, I'm giving no possible way for them to keep me there. So I know every single person there by name, have perfectly normal interactions with every single staff member. And but the unknown report accidentally lied or switched me with someone else, right? Anyway, so I get out. When I get out, I'm thinking, ooh, now I get to go to work, prove to the world that I can literally be doing everything everywhere all at once things one moment, and then selling someone a TV the next moment, and they don't have any idea that I was just in a psych ward. And I go to work to talk to that guy, the coworker who said he's back in the void. They have his, so he had knowledge of what possessions the police had about me, and he's relaying that to who he thinks is not me. Anyway, I say to the oh, he wasn't there, right? And he had the perfect cover story, which is that he was overweight, and he finally bit the bullet. Like, for he's a good guy. We were friends, I thought, right? But I like him still. But and I have to think about everything twice. Like, on the one hand, I accept that I'm just crazy, and none of this is real, and I'm just gonna go to work, clock in, make small talk, do my job, leave, etc. And then on the other hand, I'm monitoring, what if he really did say that, or blah blah blah. So I leave open the door of, he's just a normal coworker. But anyway, I don't have the chance to talk to him about it because when I go back to work, that was right when he had conveniently finally got the money to do the thing and be out of work for months recovering from surgery. So he's in surgery when I come back. He later came back. Eventually, he did come back. But by that time, I was so in the flow of just being a regular employee again that when he came back, I didn't confront him about it because it wasn't fresh. And I thought it would be strange bringing it up, whereas it wouldn't have been strange. It would have been perfectly normal if I had said it months ago, I felt. Anyway, I just decided by that point, I don't even know what my mindset was, but I was just like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to treat this guy normally and not bring it up because I thought it was in my best interest to not bring anything up because I was just thankful to be employed because that's part of my plan, is to be educated and employed to counteract people's judgment of me. So my roommate's banging on the door, and then he comes in the door. And at this point, I hop in the corner of my room away from the door onto my bed because I've just been in a physical fight. Oh, and the way I'll finish that story before I go back and tell the fight story. So, how I got away from the fight. When I'm up on the bed, he's like, "Give me back my phone." And I'm like, "No, I require a phone. Like, I needed a phone." I didn't know why. Like, I'm reading Born Identity right now. He doesn't know why. He needs what he needs, but he knows that he needs it. So he has no memory of like why he needs to get a hotel on the third floor, but he knows that it's non-negotiable to get the high ground. So I'm on my bed on the high ground, and I'm also insisting that I have a phone for the time being because I don't know what's happening, and I need to have a phone. I need to be able to notify people that I've been attacked, so that certain steps are taken, so that I guess I don't know. I wasn't thinking, like I said, but the basic thought was I almost just died. I could have been killed. Who do I know for sure doesn't want me to die? My parents. So I'm going to tell them that I'm gravely injured. So that was why I needed the phone. But I also need to gather intelligence. So anyway, suddenly my phone appears. So the girl comes in the room, and I'm ready to fight him for telling him that I need the phone for now. And I was almost done with it, but the girl comes in and points behind me and says, "Your phone's right there." And then there's my phone on the windowsill. And I don't remember what phone it was, if it was an iPhone or I have an iPhone, but it wasn't really activated. But I think my phone at the time was the Pixel 4a. And I think it was there on the windowsill where I liked to put it. And I hadn't noticed it before. So then I immediately at that point give him his phone back, because now I have my own phone to replace it with. And so the girl was able to de-escalate the conflict by pointing out that I had my own phone I could use. So maybe I'm just some dumbass who could have used his own phone. But for whatever reason, when I walk in the door, I immediately take his phone and text everyone. All the numbers I had memorized and all the contacts in his phone that um, that I knew from my phone and then or from my job, and then also maybe a couple random ones. But so then I have my phone. Then the fire department comes to my room because my parents were calling them, telling them I was bleeding. This is actually where it gets really fascinating. I mean, this is the most fascinating night of my life. Not the best night, but definitely the most interesting. The best night was with a girlfriend in her pool. But the most fascinating night was this, bar none, in terms of gathering information about reality. I mean, it's like Brad Pitt says in Fight Club, how much do you know about yourself if you've never gotten into a fight? I know what happens when I lose a fight so badly that I'm unconscious on the ground and then I get up against multiple attackers and get out of it without any repercussions from over 30 police that showed up with rubber weapons, regular weapons, ambulances, fire trucks. Maybe not fire trucks, for sure an ambulance and several cop cars surrounded like Neo in the Matrix 4. And so I'll come back to the fire department in my room later. But before that, when I sacrificed my knees to get up from the beating, I face my attackers and then I immediately look around the environment. Like how do I prevent them from pinning me down and killing me or forcing me to wake up in a place where I'm going to get in trouble because I'll lose my job and my apartment. And the world, I thought that was it. I thought that was it. They're going to lock me away forever and just say this is a crazy person, there's nothing we can do, you know? If I didn't get up. So I got up and I see a car parked on the so I'm on a street outside of a bar and I'm on the sidewalk with some other guys and they're ready to fight me again, and I realize I can't beat them and my objective isn't even to beat them anymore because I already lost, right? So it's not about beating them up or anything like that. It's just about managing the situation. So I get up, I jump up, I realize I need to get on top of that car. Because if I'm on top of that car and they try to kill me with their bare hands, I will be able to kick them off of the car before they can get up there with me. So I jump on the hood of the car because I can't jump straight up on the car like Spider-Man. So I jump on the hood, and then from the hood I jump up to the roof. And it's just a normal like sedan. Like probably a red car. When I'm up on the car, that's when things got super weird. So at this point, I'm bleeding. I'm wearing my MaxGen.com custom sweatshirt with this symbol on it. Let me go to something real quick. So I'm wearing this. So I'm wearing this. I'm bleeding from the eye. And I know that I won't be treated fairly because they were kicking me in the head after I had stopped resisting. So I need to get up on the car so I can defend myself as best as possible, and I can also be as visible as possible, because I knew they would prefer. I felt like, I don't know. I take very seriously what I know and don't know. I don't know for sure any of this. This is just my experience. I get up on top of the car, and later it was either in a dream or somehow I remembered I was shown there may have been people across the street where the Gelsons was. There may have been people to film me, because why wouldn't you? Because there were so many cops, and I remember I saw, like, it said like large police presence in Tarzana, and it was like a picture of me on top of a car wearing this, kind of like spinning around, like talking to all the police at the same time. And this really happened. Whether it was captured or not, I have no idea how I have that information in my head. I just do. But at the time, I didn't. So at the time, I'm up there, and I'm on top of the car, and my attackers are not pursuing me onto the car. I have done such an act that if they were to hop up on there, drag me off, and beat me again, that would be too weird. Like, that would be too obvious of an assault on a person. Like, because I wasn't attacking them. And at that point, they can't claim self-defense because I'm up on a car saying, leave me alone, right? So the only way to attack me is to violate the law of self-defense. So the private citizens that attacked me did not want to get involved. Before any of this happened, I was sitting on the sidewalk at the very start of this thing. I was sitting on the sidewalk with a rose in my hand and my eyes closed, lifting the rose up, just kind of praying for like a girl to give the rose to, because it's so difficult to get the girl that I want. I can get plenty of girls that I don't want, but for some reason the ones that I want elude me, and I was confused, and I felt that it was a trick in the bar. Like, I felt in the bar was going to be, the potential, the actor, or the NPC, the pretty girl. Not that all pretty girls are like this, obviously. This is just it was just an experiment one time. Is what if I don't go into the bar, but rather sit outside of it in an environment that I control, and if they walk out and come to me, maybe then I'll have a different. I just felt like being unpredictable, like in that movie, essentially. But I don't think I had even seen that movie yet. It was my own idea. So I'm outside with the rose, and this security guard with like one of those CIA like Jack Bauer earpieces, like a clear earpiece. He sees that I'm not going in the bar. I'm just a guy sitting down next to the door to go into the bar, kind of like 10 feet away, 20 feet away at the corner. He walks over to me and he says, "Hey, sir, you can't sit here," or something like that. Like, "Are you going to come in, or because I can't have you here?" And he's going well out of his way. Like I said, like 20, 30 feet. Like, I'm not like right next to the door. I'm literally like on the street corner. And you have to turn the corner and walk a little bit before you get to the bar and the doorman. And so he's well out of the bar, and I'm not harming anyone. I'm just sitting there with the rose. He comes up to me and says, "Hey man, you can't sit here." And I look at him and I just go, or he asked me like why. He didn't even say you can't. He was like, what are you doing? Like, why don't you come in, to the trap, right? Or why don't you come in to the box that society expects you to go into? Why are you deviating from the procedure that has been programmed into guys who want to meet a girl on a Friday night. So I just sat there and I said, nope, I'm I have this is where I choose to be. Like I'm sitting here. It didn't feel right in my room and it didn't feel right in the bar. So I'm going to sit here on this public sidewalk with a rose, and that's what I'm doing. You know. So the guy says, "Okay, well, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, or like I'm going to force you to leave." Which is kind of strange, right? Plus he's way too well put together. It just was, and I've what's so funny is like I live by that bar. There's never a dude, there's never Jack Bauer outside of it, right? This was an agent from the Matrix is the closest way I can describe it. Literally with an earpiece, threatening me to stop behaving like I think Free Guy does it the best when he tries to order a macchiato, or he tries to order a cappuccino instead of a cream 2 sugar, and the cop threatens to shoot him, which is a joke, but it's still this idea of like don't do something different. So anyway, he's like, I can't have you sit here. And I go, well, this is where I'm sitting. So if you want to have a conflict, we can have a conflict, but I'm not moving. And he gives up. Verbally, he gives up, and he doesn't touch me. And he goes back toward the door to the bar. And I never saw that guy again. I basically treated him like an illusion. I treated everything. This was a very temporary experiment, but from the moment I left my room to the moment I returned to my room, everything was on the table. I didn't have a model of reality that I was bringing to the table. It was more of an exploratory, like, how far can I take this? You don't really know what's going on idea of like, maybe you are in the Matrix, maybe you are, maybe God is real, or maybe the devil is real, maybe you're in hell right now, maybe you're Bruce Willis and you're already dead, like whatever, like just really pushing the limits of my psyche as an experiment. I was fully prepared to go back and have a normal like life after this. It was just a temporary experiment. So he goes away. The fight happens. I won't go into detail about what I did to cause the interruption, which caused the fight. But anyway, it was something that I could get in trouble for. It was something I could get arrested for. So, but I wasn't hurting anybody. Anyway, I get up on the car and I'm wearing my sweatshirt, and the attackers are gone. You know, it's kind of chaos. All the cops show up, but I'm already up on the car, so they can't just walk over and put me in cuffs because I'm unconscious, or and listen to their side of the story, right? Because my attacker's side of the story would have been, he was doing this, and then I tried to stop him, and then he attacked me, and then in self-defense I kicked him, and then he passed out. Like that would be their side of the story, which I knew was correct enough that I would be in trouble. But I knew the truth, which is that I didn't hurt anybody, and I only threw the punch to see what would happen if I attacked the first interrupter, because I knew an interrupter would be a next level of the agent, because the agent didn't physically touch me, the agent looking guy. So I thought, I'm standing here on this manhole and acting strange until somebody prevents me from acting strange. And if whoever the preventer is my enemy, because my goal is to act strange in this experiment. So when he pushed me off the manhole, because I tried to ignore him, I tried to close my eyes, ignore him, say none of this is real. Buddha was right. I'm running an experiment right now. He physically removed me from the manhole, and that was when I attacked him, but not a real attack, just a threat kind of. And he dodged it and started winning the fight and getting his friends to beat me up, and then. So I'm on top of the car. Those guys are kind of gone, and maybe the police haven't shown up yet, because when the police show up, then obviously I'm talking to the police. But before the police showed up, my attackers left. And now there's just one man. And who is it, you may ask? It's the owner of the car. So I'm on top of a car to try to prevent myself from being kicked into unconsciousness and wrongfully arrested. Or rightfully arrested, But now I'm having a conversation with a gentleman about his vehicle that I am damaging by standing on. And at this point, I'm using everything in my disposal to mitigate my problems of the situation. I need to my goal is to get back into my apartment alive and free. And I will use any means verbally, like there was no moral boundaries to. Normally I would live a strict life of tell the full truth 100% of the time, but in this moment I decided I'm willing to lie and trick in order to get back into my room safe and alive and free. Also, I'm on probation for a year, and this is within that year by like a week. So I'm like 1 week away from, if I had gotten arrested that night, I would have had a criminal record and violated my probation and had all these bad things happen to me, a different life, different world, different universe. But instead, I got out of this situation, and a week later, my probation was lifted. And then a week after that, I got like thrown into a psych ward, but it didn't matter because I had not violated my probation for a full year. So now I have a clean record. Like, if you run a background check on me, nothing happens. But it would have if I had fucked this up this one night. But so I'm up there thinking I need to not fuck up. So he says to me, get off my car. And I say, oh, I'm so sorry that this is your car. I was attacked, and I feared for my life. So I hopped up here so I could get a look at my attackers, because I was jumped on this sidewalk. I said, you see that blood beneath you? And he looks down and sees the blood on the pavement. And I said, that was in my face in the pavement. They were kicking me, and I decided to jump up here for my own safety. So I am very sorry about your car. I promise I will pay for all the damages, and we will resolve this together. And I had no money at this time, really, but I'm telling him not to worry about the damage to the car and that I'll pay for it. And he's not the slightest bit concerned about my bleeding face, my bloody eye, or that I was attacked. He's simply talking about his car, and that he's like, please come down from there so we can talk about it, like, get off my car, is all he's really saying. And guys, it didn't feel human, because if someone was bleeding and on top of my car and there's like chaos around, I might say, get off my car, you know. But if he explained calmly, like, I'm really sorry, but you see that blood right there, it's, and those guys over there, they just beat me up and I just had to hop up here for my own safety. You know, I might, it was just weird the way my roommate wanted his phone, the way this guy wanted me to get off the car. Obviously you want your phone, obviously you want me off the car, but it the intensity, you weren't there, but the intensity was off. So you might ask, what happened to you? What happened to your face? Or what's going on? Rather than a simple give me back my. Like, the important thing was that I didn't have a phone and I wasn't on top of a car, which is removing my power from being killed or silenced or whatever I feared. So I'm up there and I say, you know, do you want my insurance? I'm assuring him everything's going to be fine. I'm like, I'll give you my insurance card. It's like totally fine. I have it right here. And he's confused by this because I'm lying, and I pretend to drop the card that doesn't exist on the other side of the car. So then I turn around. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I just dropped it. It's over here now, where he can't see. So he can't immediately invalidate what I'm saying. So all I'm doing is buying time. I'm just talking, buying time. The longer I can stay up on that car, the more eyeballs I have on me, the safer I am from whoever's trying to kill me right now. You can't finish the job or put me away for life or whatever. I'm getting out of this. Now, so that guy disappears. So the agent, after I talked to him, he disappeared. The attackers, after I got on top of the car, they disappeared. Then the guy who claimed it was his car, he disappeared from focus. So is he there in the background? Yeah, probably. But they weren't like there in my attention after I dealt with them. So I think when the police came is probably when he started to be taken to the side and give like a statement of like, well, I don't know, I saw this guy on my car and I tried to ask him to get down and whatever. I don't know. I didn't hear any of that. I'm just speculating. I did see somebody talking to somebody, but I'm focused on the police stopping them from shooting me, right? Or arresting me. Like physically taking me down, right? So the cops come and they say, you know, what's going on? And what's fascinating is no one ever brought up. So the attackers who tried to kill me almost, they never testified. That, like, they didn't testify is the wrong word, but they never gave a statement to the police. They weren't there talking to the police. They weren't pointing their finger at me saying, he attacked me, he did this, he was doing that, so I stopped him, and then he attacked me, and they weren't, they, like I said, disappeared. They were nowhere. And so when the police, and maybe, you know, one way of looking at it is maybe they got a little too excited kicking me, and they realized that when the cops were coming, they didn't want to be giving statements about defending their self-defense. They would rather just leave and not have to deal with it. And maybe I picked a fight with the wrong guy or whatever, whatever. But there was no indication from the police talking to me that they were concerned with my behavior prior to the fight. And the most interesting, because that's the only thing I could be really arrested for. Because jumping on the car, I claimed, so anyway, they come to me and they say, you know, what are you doing up there? And I say, hi, officer, you know, very sorry, I'm up here. I was jumped on the sidewalk. I was attacked. They were kicking me while I was down, and I feared for my life. So I managed to get up here where they couldn't attack me as easily. and I'm very sorry. I will definitely get down from here as soon as I feel safe. And the officer said, okay, like that seemed reasonable enough for her to not immediately subdue me. Because technically, she works for me, right? And there's no one telling her. All she knows is someone called 911. There's a guy on top of a car. I don't know who called 911. The bar, maybe, or maybe it could have been anyone. Um, but they're all there, and there's a lot of them. This is the most cops I've ever dealt with. A lot of cops. Okay, the whole street is like cops and lights, flashing lights, and um, so the cops start asking me questions, and I start explaining. Oh, I'm like, I'll buy him a new car. Like, it's totally fine. I totally, take responsibility for the damages. I gave him my insurance information, and I'll pay for the damages. And I said I'm in shock right now. That was my key defense. Is I knew a police officer would be trained to understand that people who were bleeding from the eye are allowed to be in a state of shock. And if they're in a state of shock, they're allowed to be uncooperative with police for a small amount of time. So I used the word I'll get down when I feel safe, and also like I am in a state of shock right now, so please give me a few minutes, and then I will come down, right? So the cops are saying, get down now, and I'm defending myself articulately and reasonably. I also said, check the footage. And I think one of them said, there's no cameras. And I said, then check the satellite. And that shut everybody up when I said that. Because what I was doing was encouraging them to look at my strange behavior, which would have been incriminating me if they did. But I wanted them to give away that they had the footage, because I felt like they know exactly what happened. There are bad and good people, or there are evil and good forces at work, where I felt like they would know what happened. I was willing to go down if it meant that they had to give away that their satellites, like if part of the trial was they had satellite image of that exact thing. I wanted the tape to go public of these men that were kicking me in the head while I was unconscious. While I wasn't a threat, they were trying to hurt me, to the point where it was so egregious, I knew that what I had done wasn't as egregious, and that the bad was more evident than me being bad. Like, me being attacked was disproportionately evil to the bad that I was doing. So I knew that they didn't want the footage, if there was any, right? I also am capable of thinking twice and saying there could, of course, be no satellite footage, no camera footage. Nobody knows what, and all those people mysteriously didn't tell the police what happened. But I essentially said, check the satellite, right? And then they say to me, and I'm also lying because I'm leaving out the part where I threw the first punch, I think. And I'm just saying, because I need to justify my position on the car for as long as possible while I recover my concussion, and so I can think clearly to come up with a new plan to get down from there safely without getting arrested. So then the cops are, circling me, and there's this woman cop that is, asking me what's going on. And I'm introducing myself to all of them, and I'm letting them know very clearly I am not crazy. I was attacked, and I'm in a state of shock, and I want to go home, and I do not want to be arrested. I do not need medical assistance. I just want to freely, under my own power, go home and call it a night. And that's what I'm explaining to the police. I'm also encouraging them to use any testimony, any evidence available to determine the truth of my statement that I was attacked, and that's why I'm on top of the car. So the cops start playing good cop to me. They're like, "Hey man, we just want to help you. Why don't you get down from there and we'll figure out this we'll figure out what's going on. We'll get you patched up and, or whatever, right?" And I start explaining to all of them, "I don't trust you. You guys show up with 9/11 on your car." And 9/11 was an inside job. But before I said that, I wanted to make clear that I wasn't crazy, because if I was just up there saying 9/11 is an inside job, they would like tase me and like put me in the back of a car like this dude's crazy. But the way I did it was I would individually introduce myself to a certain officer, and I would say, "Listen, officer, I am, this is my name, and I have a college degree. I'm a philosopher, okay, and I'm a computer programmer, and to prove that, on my sleeve is my name and the .com." And I'm like, "Do any of you have a smartphone on you?" And I said, "I'm not, I forget exactly what I said, but I at that point I'm asking, do any of I can prove it, I'm saying I can prove it. Do any of you have a smartphone on you?" And one of the lady cop goes, "I have a smartphone." Now, are cops in the business of obeying a citizen who's disobeying them? No. So are they going to pull up my website because I asked them to when I'm on top of a car surrounded by police? No, that's not how cops work. But I lied. I said, if one of you pulls up my website, I will come down cooperatively. I will come down. As soon as you show me that you're on my website, I will come down in peace. And so one of the cops takes the initiative to do this. So she pulls out her cell phone, goes to maxjane.com, pulls it up, sees this, right? And at the time, I had a bunch of writing on there about conspiracy theories, simulation theory, like, in my opinion, proving with evidence, with articles, like proving certain things, like the Mandela effect or whatever. So she has it pulled up. She shows me that she has it pulled up. That's helping me verify, okay, the website does actually exist, because sometimes I feel like it literally doesn't work. Like it doesn't, like it's not, when other people try to use it, it's not working the way it should. Like it is, but I'm contemplating anything goes that night in this experiment. So I'm up there and she's showing me my website, and I'm bonding with her during this experience where I'm like, I speak English, I'm well educated, I have a job, I work as a computer programmer and at this store doing this thing, and I have work tomorrow. I just want to go home. I'm very sorry for being up here. I just was attacked and blah 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 blah. So I'm trying to appear as sane as possible. I'm in shock. Let me stay up here for a few minutes. They're agreeing. They're saying, "Time's up. Get down." I'm saying, "I'll get down if you do X," right? So I'm like, and then so she does X, right? And then I say, "Thank you." And she says, "Okay, now you have to come down." And I say to her, you're right. I did say that I would, but I'm sorry I lied. I'm actually still not comfortable coming down, and I'm very sorry. And it was a genuine apology because I had lied to her. I was like, thank you for pulling up my website and proving that I'm a programmer and not a madman, because most madmen don't have a website with their name on it that you can just pull up and validate everything they're saying. So then I turn to another. So she's in disbelief at this point. She takes a step back, kind of like laughs, gasps, and just is trying to process what's happening. Then I start talking to a guy cop, and I say to him, well, I also when I'm up there, I'm saying I'm claiming to be the smartest man alive. And I'm like, I am the smartest person in the world. I can prove it. Pull up my website. I'm a philosopher, and I've figured out this theory, that theory, but I'm doing it in a way where it doesn't come off as let's tase this guy. So I say to the guy, hi, how are you? I'm Max. What's your name? He's like, I'm Terry or something. I'm like, thank you, Terry. I'm like, and we even shook hands. And this was a trusting moment because he could have grabbed my hand and pulled me off the car. But I was insulting all the police at the same time, claiming you're all evil. I don't trust any of you because of the number on your car, because of my experiences with you in the past, because of this, because of that. I don't even know if you guys are real people. And then as I'm saying that, I'm saying, except this girl over here who pulled up my website, she's like, I haven't decided if she's real or not. She's like half real. And she's like kind of like scratching her head, like trying to figure out what is going on. And then Terry claims to be real, walks up to me and said, because I'm like, I want to have a real conversation with a real person who's willing to like introduce themselves and stuff. So this one cop tries. He comes up and he's like, I'm Terry, and I'm like, I'm Max. We shake hands. This is a man on top of the roof of a car for 10 minutes now, surrounded by police telling him to get down, not obeying, telling them all that he's the smartest man in the world, that 9/11 is an inside job, that they work for the bad guys without realizing it, and some of them might not even be human, and then so I say to the guy, I say, have you ever heard of the simulation theory? But I say it like a friend, and he's like, yeah, you know what, I have heard of that. And I said, okay, well, I believe that I have some insight into that, and that I was attacked for it, and I would like to go home. Will you make sure I get home safely or something like that? And he's like really considering it. I also told him, this is the craziest part. I told him, have your hand on your weapon ready to shoot anyone who tries to shoot me, because I'm basically claiming that I have all the answers in my head and they want to kill me. And yet he's not arresting me, he's not throwing me in a psych ward. He literally puts his hand on his gun and looks around at the other officers. He's obeying me at that point. So he's on my side, he backs up and he has his hand on his gun. Now a black guy gets out of a car, like one of those big SWAT cars or something, and he's got this like grenade launcher, war machine, green thing. If you don't believe this, totally fine, no problem. I do have some videos that are real of me interacting with police in this way. It's not my first rodeo. In fact, it's probably my third. So I'm assaulting the character of these cops, and not Terry, not the girl who gave me a chance, just the other ones at this point. And then they're saying to me, what, we want to help you, why don't you trust us, why don't you just come down? And I say, because that man over there won't identify his weapon. I said he won't make eye contact with me and he won't identify his weapon. Because as soon as I saw the weapon, I was like, what is that? Because I'm like wondering what they're going to do to me. I've never seen anything like it. So then the guy with the weapon looks at me with like shame in his eyes because he knows what I'm saying is true. I'm making it abundantly clear that they have no right to stop me from protecting myself as a sovereign citizen. I'm like, I'm a taxpayer. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a citizen. I'm a college graduate. Philosopher, web developer, genius. Uh, all this stuff. And so the guy with the weapon is ashamed of himself, and looks at me and looks away, and he's waiting for the green light to shoot me with the rubber bullet to get me down from the car without killing me, right? That's why he's there. But I call him out, and everyone's kind of shook. The girl doesn't know what to think. The guy doesn't know what to think with his hand on his gun, and I'm claiming up there. I'm claiming that there's like a hit on me, uh, and that I want the cops to work for me. I'm like, the good cops that can hear me, just I would like to be escorted back to my apartment tonight. And the mass of the cops are telling me that's not going to happen, right? Well, guess what happened? Not only did I walk down from the car and into my apartment without a key, by the way, because one of the bad cops had confiscated my keys, so I couldn't get home. Not only did I get in by someone miraculously opening the door for me right then, and this is like midnight, the cop drove by me as I was going in and gave me a peace sign and a thumbs up. I used to remember their names. I actually can't think of their names, but maybe it was Terry, maybe it was, I forget the last names. I do remember one last name who I'll get to later, but that was a different rodeo, the fourth one. So at this point, I'm up on the car, saying that the police are corrupt, saying that the Illuminati's real, saying that 9/11 was an inside job, saying that the Mandela effect's real, saying that parallel universes might be real, or saying that I'm testing the simulation theory and these guys attacked me while I was doing that. Telling him to check the satellite, telling the good cops to be ready to shoot anyone who tries to shoot me. And how do you not arrest me at that point? So then they start asking me questions like, who's the president? Because they want to claim that I am incoherent and crazy, so that they can justify putting me in a psych ward, right? So they ask me who the president is, and I don't know who the president is because I don't know anything. But I know that the best probability of passing this sanity test is telling them. My answer was, last time I checked, it's Joe Biden, which was correct, obviously. They asked me the street name I was on, which I didn't know, and I was pissed about that because I was like, fuck, I need to get these answers right. So I gave them like all the cross streets I knew, and I was like off. It was like Ventura, but I said Victory, but it was like close enough, and I knew the other cross streets. So, and I was like, that's that, and so I'm passing all the sanity tests. They have no proof. They have no, like, only super high level philosophical, like time travel type things could be described as crazy, but they're so advanced that my claim was, look, I have the education necessary to be able to discuss these advanced topics. Look at my website, look at my identification or my credentials, and listen to me speak and realize that there are people trying to kill me just now. Like, look at my face, look at the blood, right? So this is the coolest part of the story. So they're not letting me down, right? Because there's all these cops, and they're not just going to let some guy tell them to fuck off. So the ambulance is sitting there waiting for me to get medical attention. I say to the ambulance, I'm very mindful that I'm like, look, how many cops do you need for one man who's unarmed on a car who just wants to walk home? Like, how many do you guys need? Because if there's a fire somewhere, you should probably go to there. Or if someone needs help, like, you should probably, I don't need the ambulance. Like, I'll be fine. I claimed that I had uh, my own medical assistance available to me. I claimed I was meeting my girlfriend there. Um, anyway, the ambulance left because, and they were like, why don't you want to just go to the hospital? Like, we're not going to arrest you. You can just go to the hospital. And I say, I'm not going in the hospital. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because they'll just charge me with a crime I didn't commit. And that shut them up. And then they drove away. They're like, look. And then, so, uh, you know, I forget when exactly they drove away, but I can tell you that before the cops left, I started to get frustrated. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. Who's the highest ranking person here? You know? But I didn't want like a cop. So I said, do any of you have contacts in intelligence? And I looked around, and at this point I'm friends with some of the audience members. Like, I'm I'm kind of putting on a show, and I'm confusing everyone because I'm, on the one hand, I'm saying these crazy things. On the other hand, I'm saying, "Hi, I'm Max. Nice to meet you." To each person, maybe making a little joke when I get to know them, each cop. Some of the cops are pure NPC, pure hatred, pure, when can I shoot this guy? You know? But some of them aren't. And I'm telling them, hey, some cops are really good, But anyway, uh, I say, do any of you have contacts in intelligence? Because I'm like claiming that what's going on is way far above their pay grade, and that they need to be ready to shoot whoever's going to try to shoot me because I'm that important. That's what I'm claiming up on the car, which is it's like, I don't even know that I believed it in that moment. It's just what I was choosing to say with my concussed brain to try to buy time. All I was doing was moving my mouth and buying time while my brain recovered long enough for me to be able to survive and get down from there. And I'm trying not to get arrested. So I'm really trying to say everything right when it comes to who the president is or whatever, what day of the week it is. So they're stumped because all their protocols are failing, because I have a countermeasure for every single argument they have for me to get off the car. I'm like, I'll buy him a new car. I'm in shock. Just give me a moment. Or just pull up my website. I'll go down if you show me this. Like, I was just tricking everyone constantly so that there was no reasonable. The only thing they could do was shoot me, or grab my leg. But I'm being videotaped from across the street by people. So it would be police brutality, maybe. Anyway, plus some of the cops are ready to just I'm dividing and conquering, right? So because some cops know the truth that I am a smart person and I do have value, and they should read my website. So anyway, I'm up on. There's nothing to read now, unless you ask me for it. I won't. But anyway, so actually, there is some cool stuff somewhere. But anyway, so I even have, like, I'll show it real quick. Just something, a little thing. This is a web page demonstrating how quantum entanglement could be a proof of simulation theory, like evidence for simulation theory, using a web page, using academic papers. This is like this is like 3 years ago. Universes don't run on electricity, they run on consciousness. I'm talking about the base reality of the simulation in the simulation theory. And I'm talking about the speed of light, like the smallest possible distance light can go, and the universe updating itself with variables connected by quantum entanglement. I'm talking about all this super advanced stuff that no one ever, not once, has tried to talk to me about. You know, I'm just on an island. I know that there are people who could do it, but in my personal experience, I mean, I just played chess with a guy this week that was smarter than me, but it's super rare. He's a PhD AI guy. But anyway, so I'm up there and I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, when are you guys gonna get it? Like, when are you guys gonna just leave me the fuck alone? And just let me go home and write down what I learned. Because I didn't hurt anyone. So leave me alone. And I don't want your help. But I'll take an ice pack, right? So one of the guys, I think it was the Terry guy, he might have not been named Terry, but we'll call him Terry. We do a compromise where I don't want to come down and receive medical attention, but I'm not a crazy person. So yes, I agree that ice would reduce swelling. So if you bring me in, if you actually want to claim to be helpful, because they come in with this "I want to help you" attitude when they don't. This is the bad cops I'm talking about. So I'm saying, if you actually want to help me, and I'm up here afraid for my life, bleeding profusely, why don't you grab a fucking ice pack from that truck over there, tell it to go to somebody who wants it, and just let me have my ice pack and let me reduce my shock. So they couldn't argue with that. You see what I'm saying? How can you argue with that? It's so coherent and valid and true. So they give me the ice pack, and now I'm in control of the situation. I have an ice pack. I've shook hands with an officer who could have dragged me off the car, but instead instinctively looked at the other officers and went for his weapon because he agreed it would be wrong if anyone shot me at that moment. So I have the ice pack, and I'm asking about intelligence, contacts and intelligence. And this is when I'm sort of start impersonating a CIA officer, even though I'm not, and I didn't. I sort of that's like a neighbor of what I was doing. So I say, do any of you have contacts and intelligence? Because I'm trying to speak to someone who is above the level of like base accepted model of the way things work. Like who knows about subterfuge or whatever might be happening to me, and would they know if they're the ones, if they're the enemies, if they're, it's like crazy people say, oh, the CIA is chasing me. If that were true, then they would know who I was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying bullshit. I'm up there saying bullshit. Doesn't matter what I'm saying, as long as I'm preventing them from controlling the situation. So I say, do any of you have contacts and intelligence? And all of them say no. All of them genuinely look around at who's going to say, I do. And they admit none of them, and I'm like, not a single one of you has a contact in the CIA. And they all shake their heads. And I say, well, get on the phone and call someone who does. Like contact them and ask. And I said it with such an attitude. I said, Ask them if they know who Max Chan is. And I said it as if they should know who I am and they should let me go because I'm Secret Service or whatever, you know? Like in the Jason Bourne movie when he's getting arrested and he's like, I'm Secret Service, and they let him go. It's like, get me somebody who's going to have the authority to let me go. Because it was crystal clear to me that what I was doing was not working. So I had to escalate the situation to something that might work. So it's like a Hail Mary. Get me on the phone with the CIA, right? Or I was trying to follow protocol. Like, I'm pretty sure if I was a CIA agent and I didn't have ID on me, but I had my website, I had my name on my thing I could corroborate that I was indeed that person. I had a birthday and everything, right? Like they verified everything. I memorized my, driver's license number, social security number, anything they needed. So I was provably me, and then I'm asserting that with attitude that is hard to fake, genuine frustration that they haven't let me go yet. So they make the call. They stop talking to me, and I don't know for sure that they made the call, but within about 5 minutes, a new cop shows up that I've never seen. A black guy, really good looking. I'll say his name, Lawhorn. He's a good guy. He can probably handle himself, even if I say his name. So Officer Lawhorn, after I make the CIA comment and ask for a contact to be contacted to see if they can explain the situation, Officer Lawhorn shows up and shoos away all of the cops, all of the ambulance. He makes this big announcement. He says, look, Max, since you've demonstrated your sanity, you don't want our help, you haven't committed a crime, you're free to go. We're going to get out of your way. I'm not kidding you. This fucking happened. And I've seen this man again. And he was very happy to see me, and I was very happy to see him. And that's a separate story that I'll tell right after this story. So Officer Lawhorn, and he even said I had a good memory, because when he arrested me the next week for a different thing after my probation was cleared and I could get arrested again without any consequence, he was talking to me about the previous thing, and I mentioned the other officers' names because I had them memorized at the time. I don't anymore. And he was like, you have a good memory or something. But anyway, this officer shoos away all the cops. Everyone listens to him, and he doesn't look any different. He just looks like a normal cop in black. But everyone listens to him and leaves, and then the ambulance leaves, and all of a sudden I have a clear path to jump off the car and run home, because my home is not far. It's like less than a mile away down the street. So suddenly I'm no longer being attacked. I'm no longer being pursued. I'm no longer being threatened with rubber bullets or questioned for my sanity. Suddenly it's just like there are cops maybe that are pushing bystanders away so that I have a clear path. I asked to be escorted home. I claimed to be like this VIP person who needed to be protected. They claimed they wouldn't do that, but then they did that, and I had a clear shot. So I realized, okay, I have a clear shot. And again, my memory or my I'm not like, my head really hurts. So I don't know exactly what's going on, and my vision is not that good without glasses, and I don't think I think I left my glasses in my room when I went out for this, because I didn't need them because I was going to be closing my eyes during the experiment. So I go to if you want to do a micro experiment of this, just go stand on a manhole and close your eyes and start dancing. And no matter what anyone does or says, just keep dancing and meditating and considering the possibility that none of it is real and that you have nothing to be embarrassed about. You know, that's a micro version. And see if anyone tries to stop you physically. Anyway, so I run home, and I'm like praying, like I need an angel to open this door. I believed in angels at the time, still do kind of, but I mean I for sure do, but not as much as I did then, I would say, even though that's before I actually saw one. So someone immediately, looks at their window. Like I might have tapped the window, but they come let me in, and then I knock on my door. I get let in there. That's when I borrow the phone, go into my room. Then I give his phone back, and I have my phone. Then the fire department comes, and I'm still in don't get arrested mode. Document what happened, gather intel, don't get in trouble. Very important that I live the next week like totally normal, to balance it out, to confuse, to hide. This is crazy. So the fire department comes into the apartment to the edge of my bedroom, and I say, I do not consent for you to come into my room. I am paying for this room. This room is Cloudland. This room is another country. You do not have authority here. I do not want you here. And the fire guy says, we just want to get you to a hospital so we can get your face looked at. Your parents are calling us repeatedly, and they're concerned for your well-being. So please come with us. I wouldn't mind really coming with them. The issue is I don't want to be in a position where I'm in a hospital bed and an officer can walk in and arrest me, or I'm in a psych ward and I have to wait 72 hours to even have a chance to get out, and then they force feed you meds and you have to do all this bullshit. No, I'm safe in my room if you just leave me alone. So I'm like, no, I don't consent. If you come in here, it's an act of war. I'm the king of Cloudland. Don't come in here. The guy looks at me. I have no I mean, I do kind of remember, but he looks at me and he says, "You told me this would happen." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Before we met, and he said, I took this call on purpose. Like I came here because we know each other." And this is like the chief of the fire department in Tarzana, in my room, at the edge of my room, not coming in. And I have all this glitter on the ground, like reflecting the light. Oh, because I just like glitter. And I heard that it's got a secret recipe. So I thought I was interested in glitter at the time. So I'm like, don't step on my glitter. Like, don't come in here. And he's explaining to me that you told me this would happen. There was some other scenario where somehow we had met when I was doing my thing, and I told him I will continue to get arrested. Like I will do this again. No matter what happens, like you'll see me again. I'm never gonna stop. I promised to him, like, that I will continue to do this. This is not my current state. I mean, I will. If you give me $1 million and a mansion and self-sufficiency, the first thing I would do is go outside and border on breaking the law, because I don't like the law. The law is bad. Is it wrong to break an unjust law? Is a philosophical question that I take seriously. Are just laws good? Yes, they are. And I should be punished if I break a just law. But some laws are unjust, in my opinion. So those are the types of laws that I would break. Those are the types of laws that Jesus would break. That's why they were trying to kill him. He had a different law than the law of the land. He had the law of heaven. So if I'm doing something that doesn't break the law of heaven and someone on the earth has a problem with me, that's a problem with them. So I told the firefighter this in a previous excursion. I don't remember exactly which one, but he said, I'm going to tell everyone to go. Only because you told me, only because we know each other. Like, he had met me in a moment where I was allowed to leave. Like, I was safe. I was not in trouble, but I had explained to him that I am who I am and this is what I'm doing. So he said, I'm going to let you go. And I said, okay, thank you, And I probably made some small talk with him, but isn't that interesting? That the chief of police is telling everyone there's nothing to see here, basically. And then the chief of the fire department is saying, I took this call on purpose so I could stop them from taking you. And I know you, and I know that you're not violent and you're not crazy, and that you told me this would happen. So interesting. So, I told the very first cop that ever arrested me, I asked him to arrest me, and I told him I will continue to get arrested throughout my life until certain changes are made. And I said, you gotta form your own underground society of good cops, because there are bad cops too. And you can't, when the time comes, when I'm on top of the car and everyone has their guns, you have to take a stand. You can't you can't go with the party line anymore. At that point, you have to work for me. That's what I want. I've been to the Army and I've said, look, guys, work for me. Do you really want your commander to be Joe Biden? Or do you want it to be you? Like, I'll put you in charge of the Army if you work for me. And you'd be surprised. The Army is not very opposed to that idea. They know everyone knows. See, you can say that's crazy, but everyone knows. I mean, 50% of people know that Joe Biden shouldn't be in control of the United States military. And that he isn't really. And that ideally we would have a young, smart, strong, noble leader. Not that I am those things, but I'm not Joe Biden. I'm not an old, decrepit politician, pedophile, liar. I'm some of those things maybe, but not decrepit. That's the most important part. I'm not old. I'm not laughably old to be in control of the Army guy that I was talking to. I'm like, you think I would give you a command? Like, no. Like, you should be in charge. Well, you know what I did? I walked into the Army office and I said, I'm a philosopher. I got a simple question for you guys. I didn't even say that. I said, can I ask you guys a question? And they said, sure. I said, and I'm looking at 3 soldiers in fatigues. And I say, do you guys, is your guys' policy to follow orders no matter what, or only orders that you understand? And are you allowed to question those orders so that you understand them? Or is it kind of like a don't ask questions policy of like, just do what you're told? And this was an open-ended question that got them all talking, and then they're interested in me, like, what makes you ask such a question? And their answer was, well, typically we're getting our orders from someone who's, and I'm saying, are these orders coming from outside of you or within your platoon or whatever you're with? And he would say, typically we have a platoon leader and he is giving us orders, and if there's any question, we're allowed to ask him, and it's like it's got this localized authority, which sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I'm totally for that. So he's saying there's no problem there, and I'm saying yes, but down the line, eventually, is there ever a disconnect to where it's just do this and don't ask questions? And that was what got them interested, and that's when I pointed out, like, hey, like, why are these corrupt politicians, what gives them the right to tell your platoon leader where to go? And he admitted that there is a gap between perhaps what the platoon leader knows. Like, shouldn't there may be value in a soldier doing what a soldier says, but that was my question. It was a genuine question. I wasn't coming in there with an agenda. It was a genuine question. Then they're asking me, well, who are you to ask such a question? And I'm saying, well, I'm just making sure, like, you guys are able to fight for what you believe in or something, but no, I said I'm a philosopher, man. Because why not? What makes me not that? If I have a degree in it, it's just an undergrad degree, but why can't you be a philosopher with that? Why should I have to spend tens of thousands of dollars and more years to get a PhD in it? And maybe I will. But who cares? So anyway, I'd like to be a normal guy with a normal life and a normal wife and a normal job. I don't want to be in a psych ward or penniless or laughed at, but I also am curious, if the cops want to work for the good guys, but they're not working for the good guys, and if the army men want to work for the good guys, but they're really just working for the politicians who are working for the banks, who are working for the whatever, and then if I can remove these good people from these powerful systems and make them work for a new, or not make them do anything, but encourage them to form a new benevolent organization, like something we can all agree on. I think if we're fighting, we should know why, and we shouldn't be lied to about it. I'm tired of the good men of the world being leveraged to do evil deeds unknowingly. Like, the banks can essentially, it's pretty well known if you do some basic, like, Illuminati research or something, that there are these, like, world bankers that profit off of war. And they kind of play it like a geopolitical chess game, and it's like, I'm not saying all bankers are bad. I'm just saying there are ways to be evil that we could eliminate or mitigate. Right now, it's way too easy to be evil. You can print money infinitely and then bribe politicians, use corrupt practices as a mega corporation, and globally infiltrate everything, including media and you know, there are elements of the CIA, NSA, everything that is, basically Spectre or what is it in Mission Impossible? The Syndicate or whatever. And then you got the good guys like Lawhorn. I don't know if he's just an ordinary cop who's just a nice guy and told everyone to leave and was happy to see me and they never made the call. That's possible. But he didn't seem like he seems, in my eyes, he seems like a guy who would be a good recruit into one of those programs. So, anyway, I see him a couple weeks later in a jail cell. I'm in a cell for, what did I do? For standing on a car again, but this time unprovoked. So no blood. I'm just up on a car. I get arrested. Or no, wait, that was in Westlake. But maybe they took me back. Pretty sure that's what I did. So yeah, I'm in a jail cell singing, and this cop comes by, and it's the Officer Lawhorn guy. And maybe they took me back there because that's where I was from. And so I'm in the jail, and he was smiling, he was beaming, and I thought that's strange, but oh, I know what I did. I was actually out in the street dancing and singing, and I had a little toy from a smoke shop that resembled a weapon, and so that's enough to get you arrested. It's a gun that works as some sort of way to get high that I didn't even use. I just like guns. I like toy guns. So anyway, I had my toy gun and I'm playing in the street and I end up in the jail cell. Lawhorn comes by and he's happy to see me, and they put the handcuffs on me so gently and were so nice to me because I've been treated. If you've ever gotten arrested, sometimes they put the handcuffs on super tight. I've had cops turn off their cameras in their cars, turn off all the lights, and say that they're in control and can do whatever they want to me. And I was like, oh, that's a lesson to remember. But these cops were so nice to me. I mean, this one cop, and he took me to the psych ward, and I don't know. It was just funny seeing him again. And, I'm not going to stand on top of a car again. I'm not going to play with a gun again. Obviously, these are stupid things. I'm kind of stupid. I'm kind of crazy. I'm kind of immoral. But I'm not sure that fully explains the text message, he's back in the void. They have his keys. Why did you out Max's website? I'm so confused. I don't know how to, in any model of reality other than a strange one, I don't know how to map that onto it. Because it seems like the void is a place where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be in a place where lots of job seekers feel like this, but it feels like my resume goes into an abyss, or it feels like, it feels like some things are rigged. It feels like dating apps are rigged. Like, why are, like one time I get this girl's number in Best Buy. She tells me, she's never been asked out before in her life. And this girl's pretty. And she's not super obviously pretty to the point where she would be asked out a bunch of times. But for her to have never been asked out in her life, I was pretty confident she was going to text me back or whatever. And she seemed very interested. We were the same age. We liked the same game. We had a nice conversation. I can tell if I'm talking to a girl, I can tell if they're interested, kind of, But I mean, she had never been hit on in her life. I'm standing there hitting on her, just like, who cares if I lose this job? Like, I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna. And plus, I'm so tired of these dating apps, or these girls in real life that reject me. That, what if I ask this girl out that I normally wouldn't ask out, but that is enough for me to have a good time. Like, I haven't been on a date in a while, and I'm like, I'm just gonna, I don't want to say lower my standards, but like, I need to get out there. I need to, like, what's the like, I didn't see any harm in me. I didn't want to like break her heart or anything. I thought she could bring me genuine happiness, at least for a time, and I could bring her value as well. And I thought maybe we'll just be two 31-year-olds playing a video game together for fun. She's like a gamer girl trying to buy like a controller or something. And I thought she was pretty. I thought she had a really pretty face. She's like, why are you asking me out? I'm like, I think your face is pretty. And maybe guys are just blind to those types of under the radar girls in real life. But no message from her. And so I got her number and texted her, and she said she got it, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe she just wasn't interested, right? But I look pretty decent. If I'm at work in my uniform, I've had girls say yes and go on dates with me prettier than her. So what's happening there? Because I wanted to make a friend genuinely, and she had no one. She didn't have a guy in her life, and she had never been asked out before. And she's 31 and pretty. And you're going to tell me she didn't even text me back once? And I couldn't. It's like sometimes I want to, like, I don't know. Anyway, that was just a little. But I think that dating apps are kind of rigged. Like, I think that it's possible to just. Think of it this way. What if you used a dating app as a weapon? What if you had an enemy of the state, and you controlled the dating apps of enemies of the state, and you could, on those dating apps, decrease his confidence? It's possible. I don't know. Maybe that's totally nuts. I don't believe that is what's happening. I just got laid this week by a dating app. So I'm not here complaining about it. I think it is useful, but like, don't judge me. I'm just saying it could be hacked. Like, one time I was sure of it. I was at a store, and I'm talking to this girl, and she's like, why don't you try dating apps? And I'm like, because it doesn't work. Like, it's mine is hacked, or I forget what word I used. It's rigged or something. I don't know. And she kind of just accepted that and let me, vent to her. And she had lip injections. And this girl was gorgeous. And I don't know why she had lip injections, other than she's crazy. Like, she doesn't know how pretty she already was and that she made it look worse. Is that not what crazy is? So I didn't say that, of course. I just said, you're beautiful. Do you mind if I just sit and talk with you for a little bit? Because dating's kind of hard and I just want to look at a pretty face. And, I don't know. The girls is a whole nother problem. My best solution to that problem is freaking I have to just present myself as good as possible so that you have as much success as possible, so that any rigged argument you make is kind of more valid than if you're just like not having any success. I don't know. I think it could be used as a weapon. I mean, what is more valuable than like you to a young man than a desirable woman? And if you control those apps and those real desirable women, and let's say you have uh let's say we're talking about just a town like Tokyo, and there's 100. I mean, that's too big of a town. Let's say there's a smaller town called Tokyo, and it's got 100 girls on the app, right? And there's 200 dudes on the app, and it's a small town called Tokyo, make believe town. And you have the only dating app, and you're Mark Zuckerberg, and your app is called Friend Zone or whatever, or Frenzy or something. Yeah, Frenzy. Okay, so you're Mark Zuckerberg, you're in Tokyo, and your app has a monopoly, and it's called, because Tinder makes Hinge too. Let's say it's called Frenzy. You have access to all the data. You can see the hotness of the girls. You can see how many guys swipe right on them. Give them an elo like in chess. Let's say you have, and let's say it's out of 10 to make it simpler. Let's say you have 10 tens, hard tens, on app looking for real men to date. And then you have 20 tens of the guys, right? And let's say three of those 10 guys are political enemies of Tokyo, the government, because the government has a monopoly, they're corrupt, and this one alpha is against them and would like to take them down and lead a better world, right? Has dreams of Tokyo or whatever. And let's call him Elon. No. Let's call him Non. No, let's call him Sam. So Sam is a political dissident, and he is in Tokyo, and he is a 10. Objectively speaking, the data says girls like this guy, okay, more often than not. He's a political dissident. He's single. He, with a strong woman 10 at his side, would be more dangerous to the government. And you can control that. You can prevent that meeting from ever taking place by when the pretty 10 swipes right on the guy 10. No, I'm not a 10 right now. I'm 10 pounds overweight. But this is a hypothetical to get you to understand what's happening potentially. As Mark Zuckerberg, you could make it so that when she swipes right on that guy. She might not even ever see his profile. You could easily control that so that his profile is completely invisible. Also, even if she sees his profile, swipes right, you could make that swipe not notify the Sam, and you could make Sam instead get notified by a swipe from an undesirable, like a 4. And you could have him only match with 4s because he's a political dissident and you don't want to give him a 9 or a 10, even a chance at a 9 or a 10. So what does Sam do in that situation? He could upgrade his profile, look even better, try again. What if he still only matches with 4s? Then he gets on a treadmill, gets a 6-pack, tries again, still only matching with 4s. Then, well, what does he have to do? At that point, he has to go out in real life, tap a 9 on the shoulder, and say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? My name's Sam. I'm a computer person, computer engineer. What do you do? Or, hey, would you like to go out with me sometime or something? He has to talk with real girls and see real reactions. And even then, they might not be real. Because if we're thinking outside the box, it could be you're in the Matrix and they're not even real. But I think that they are real. I think that the hardest thing to fake is real people interacting. I think the easiest person to control is someone who's behind their computer screen only, who only asks girls out online. Then you would be easily cheated by the system. So that to me sounds like a potential CIA operation that even I would consider. If I'm running the CIA and I'm evil and there are young political dissidents and my plan is to emasculate them and destroy them, prevent them from rising up and overthrowing me, the Illuminati or whatever, why don't I leverage the online dating apps to make it more difficult for those, and then give those other 10 guys, they get all the 10 girls to match, and then everyone couples up except for those guys who are enemies of the state. I don't think this is happening, but I think that is a potential. Any neighbor of that, any leaf of that is a potentiality worth considering. Because if I had the baddest bitch by my side, I'm infinitely more powerful as a man. I just am. I would be invited places. People would be impressed by me for being accepted by such a beautiful, valuable person. I think that everyone is beautiful and everyone is valuable, but I'm also realistic that there's a certain utilitarianism to the type of girl that would have a high elo in a dating app, like influencer. There's a reason an objectively pretty girl makes more money as an influencer than someone who doesn't work out at all. So yeah. So since I've been to Texas, I haven't seen any cops really, except for when I was putting out a fire before the fire department got there. And the cops didn't bother me. And it felt really good to be surrounded by sirens, and none of them were for me. And I got to watch them drive away. And I got to put out a little fire. I don't know what's gonna happen in my life. Like another thing, I'll post this later, so it's after this happened, but I had an interview with a company that is an actually good company, and I nailed the interview, and it's twice the money of the other job, and the guy didn't hire me during the interview because he claimed that, and I believe him, that only the temp agency, because it's a temp to hire position, only the temp agency can hire me. And today it's Memorial Day, so tomorrow, and that was a Friday. So tomorrow I'm hoping I hear back from the temp agency. But I know for a fact that I nailed the interview because my last question of the interview went really well. I answered all the technical questions objectively correct because I know my stuff. And then it was a coding thing, and then he said like a simple coding thing that I know for sure, and then he like a bash command, and then he said I said, are there any misgivings you have about my ability to perform the job duties, and is there anything I can say now to possibly help assuage those? Or I put it as eloquently as possible, and he said, no, I'm confident you can do the job. I'm going to provide my feedback, and thanks for coming in. And I mean, he even hinted during the interview that I could get, but like, if that company heard this video, this audio, would you really want me to work for you? Maybe not, right? Because I'm too. It sounds crazy. It really does, and I respect that. But why am I not allowed to like provide for myself? Like I wish I could speak freely. But my point is, I'm not going to upload this video. I'm going to leave it on my computer. And then for now. And what are they going to say? Like, and are they just going to ghost me? And it's like, just like the other job, 2 jobs ghosted me. Like when I met the managers, I know if I'm being weird or not. I really do. I actually have like a very natural ability to speak normally and make small talk or whatever is required. So what is that telling me about me if they choose not to hire me? And is it possible they're actually going, because what he said in the interview was, because we're opening up a new factory, you, even though your position is a 90-day probationary position, we could promote you sooner than that to train other people to be the technicians because you have excellent communication skills. And I could tell that he wasn't really supposed to say that, and it would be breaking like a rule, and it's kind of against, it's almost like at that point he wants to take the temp agency out of it and just hire me for a different position, or kind of break the agreement of the trial period, because he doesn't want to lose me in those 90 days. He wants to quickly reward me because I'm a bubble that belongs on the surface. And I'm literally at the bottom of the ocean. So I don't belong in these interviews. The person interviewing me instantly knows he's talking to someone who doesn't belong. And yet, where are the offers from the surface? They'll recruit me, they'll taunt me. I actually like some of those companies and admit that I am maybe not ready for the surface. The highest of the high, but I'm certainly ready for the middle of the ocean. So I think it's weird that I have to, like a catfish, scrape from the bottom. when I need to come up for air like a dolphin. And time will tell, I guess. But that's my strange life. I mean, in the same day, I had no I had originally turned down this job because it was further away than I wanted to go, and I thought I might not be qualified for it. But now, I found out now there's training and stuff. But I woke up and I texted the recruiter that I had passed on the job with, and I said, it's been because it had been a month and I hadn't found anything better. I texted her saying, "Hey, is that job still available? Because I think that's my best, bet." And she said, actually, and there was a Zoom interview I had canceled, but she said, actually, there's an interview right next to where you live, in an hour. So I was able to literally text. It's like I wasn't in that universe. I didn't have that job. I never interviewed with them on the Zoom, and then or Teams, and then all of a sudden I'm texting my recruiter, and I'm getting in the car to go drive and meet the actual company with the actual people, and the interview couldn't have gone any better. And then I had just matched with a girl and been on the phone all night, and then had a date planned that night. And then my other friend hit me up the day before and wanted to learn chess from me. And I moved to Austin without knowing anyone, and then all of a sudden I have like a potential super good job, a super compatible, girl, and like with a good personality, and a best friend or a friend that comes over and plays chess with me that studies exactly what I study from afar. And I put out a fire in the building. Like, and something else happened. I don't know. It's just fucking crazy. So that's it. That's my life. I have big dreams. I have such dreams, Tom. But all of that is just to give you something to listen to while you look at this incredible design. And this is what I like. I don't give a fuck if anyone else likes this. This is what I like. This is my favorite website in the world. And it's the shit. One time I'm alone. It's just the fucking code comes down and it's badass, and if other people don't like it, I can live with that. I could die right now and say, well, that was the best website I could make, and I'm gonna make it even better. I'm already messing around with a different website. I could show you, but I have to go to the bathroom, so I'm just gonna end it. God bless you. Forgive me for my outside the box thinking, and I'm not I'm a peaceful person. I'm trying to heal. I'm a white blood cell.